Laziness
So,
basically is very human,
mhm.
so I know it.
Okay. So, you shared somewhere in discussions or on your page as well that this is important, like to overcome LLM's limits and to know them and overcome them, and they indeed after that become very powerful. So, could
Mhm.
you please share like what are one of the non-obvious limits of LLMs are?
I mentioned when it's, for example, come a new model like GPT-4 Turbo, when it has some 128 thousand tokens window, or some cloudy with 200,000 tokens. All the people are so excited about that long context windows. Nice, we can now load up all the book for the GPT and that will process it. But it's totally absurd. It's you, in my opinion, you not shouldn't do it such way. And that long context windows is not really useful. It's very little spectrum of application when it could be really useful and even not so long, in my opinion. Basically, because there's a lot of problems when we trying to load up so big context into LLM. Obviously, costs. So it will be cost
Yeah.
huge money to process it, but it's not the main point. Even the main point, in my opinion, that model is getting to lose their attention and basically perform its task much worse than with smaller context. Just it will forgot of some information inside of that long context, especially in the middle of the context. So, in my opinion, it's totally not optimal. It's much better to carry about to think about how to deliver the smallest prompt we can, deliver
Mm.
the less context we can, and to separate somehow the tasks to make that model more efficient and to not lose that attention, to execute tasks better, to cost less, to do it faster, and yes, so that I think one of that, yes, not so obvious misconceptions.
Yeah, you're right. Because I noticed myself and others think that finally you can throw some almost like rubbish unfiltered into the chat, and it will just understand everything without like going into like structured explanations, as you sometimes have to do with people. You have to think about everything you say, and we are so tired of that. So it's a very alluring to think that the model will understand anything we'll put in it, but it turns out that even prompts should be carefully engineered.
Totally,
So yeah,
totally. So
I
it's
believe it's a
like
useful one.
there could be such chance that it will understand it, but it will be much better chance that if we will prepare the data appropriately. So yes.
So another thing I want to ask is to what extent the like as an example, let's take a GPT-4 model can be improved or customized. Like when you talked about the enhancing the probability of desired response. So when I tried to integrate, like not integrate, but I was looking into using GPT for API into in our application. It is a warning there in the documentation that you cannot expect a model to be 100% accurate all the time, meaning not meaning like misleading, that it's gonna mislead users, but the outcome has certain unpredictability in it always. So it's not something you can like totally rely on to work exactly as you think it would. But you can increase the probability of the right response. So do you know like what the limits to that improvement are?
Mm, okay, so yes, like you right, it's it's always about the probability, as I basically said before, and it's yes, it's like a huge problem when because you never could be sure. But there's like different methods, for example, like guardrails that will allow to check our output of model if it not produces something wrong. For example, if we create some chatbot and we want that our chatbot will also respond our customers about some information about our company, and not wanted to suggest people how should they go vote in the next elections. So we can
Exactly.
implement
Yeah.
some guardrails that if that will check if user talking about politics, it should just answer him, sorry, I'm not expert on that, and I will not going to help you with that. So
Uh-huh.
yes, there's different ways. For example, checking of the meaning of word using some vector embeddings, and just checking that his response, if it like a vector field, if meaning of the response is in some place where that information is about our company or somewhere else with that politics or something like that. So yes, that's for example that's the case, and basically that's all about AI development to introduce that tools, additional tools that will help us to check it, to like improve that models, because like most of the people thinking that we should just write better prompt or something like that, but that not all. There are much more things around the model that we can implement basically programmatically, that that helps it to increase that quality of responses. And yes.
So does it mean that you process users' input outside of the model and control what is going to consume? Because yeah, the most common probably use case I was thinking when you were telling us about it was with chatbots again. Like people start to discuss whatever like outside of the chatbot main function with it, and as it has this all-knowing model in it. People just use it for other purposes. So, do we stop it by adding more program layers before we feed the user's input into the model, or how is it achieved?
Yes, totally. So, for example, yes, we processing his response, the user input and model response. Also, we can process it, check it out with, for example, that the guardrails that will check what about that input or output is, and yes, we can use some moderation API also. So basically, there's a lot of ways to control it, and yes, it's not all about prompting, but about all the different stuff that yes, that could check it out.
Curious. And this is it a software tool you?
Yes, it's all totally software tools. Basically, it's few of them. One of them is by NVIDIA created. Some of them is different. You can create it by yourself. Basically, one of the simplest example is to use some vector search to embed our query in some vector field, and we can embed any of sentences we talk in that vector field, and the common sentences with common meaning, even written different words, but when having meaning, same meaning or similar, they will be close to each other in that vector field. And yes, that different sentences will be in different places. So yes, that's why we can check out if some meaning of basically our sentence it is close to some such meaning or such another meaning, and yes, that's it. Yes, but also like chatbots, it's people think that LLMs it's about chatting, but it's only one of the application. In my opinion, it's like they can do much more. It's like someone that Andrei Karpatny say, or I think he's looking at LLMs like at chatbots. It's like looking for like at computer like at calculator. So it's basically the same.